Hello. Robert Phoenix here. Sorry I'm a bit late, but I have been a busy beaver. I've been a busy beaver, doing lots of readings today. 3 readings, two readings and a student before the show. I do this full time. People don't understand. They think you just roll out of bed and sprinkle a little magic dust on your cereal and you go in and start reading charts and, 1 or 2 a day and, you get to hang out in cafes and bars and live a, kind of an idle life. No, that's not the case at all. Not the case at all. I kind of work hard. That 29th degree Virgo sun is, I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love it till the end of time. Whenever that is, and who knows when it'll be. So this is an interesting time. By the way, I'm thinking of moving the time of the show. Not today's show, but the Monday through Thursday show. I'm thinking of going to 8 a.m. I would love some feedback, and not the Jimi Hendrix kind. I'd love some feedback. Although I like Jimi Hendrix feedback, don't get me wrong. He had some of the best feedback of all time. Band called the Melvins. Not a fan of their feedback. So I don't want any Melvin feedback. But Hendrixian feedback, give it to me. No, I'm thinking about moving the show to 8 a.m. Central. So basically go from 8 to 9. So you people on the East Coast, you'd get it at 9. And unfortunately, you early risers out in the West Coast, to be about 6 a.m. in your time. But I'm thinking of doing it. And the reason why, let me just share with you my process, is that I am at my best in the mornings. When I get to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting into 3 o'clock, I'm into siesta time. So I want to reorg my life and basically do the show from 8 to 9 and get in about 3 readings per day if I can. 3's a lot. 2 is perfect. But if I do 3 readings a day, I can get them done in the morning and be done by 1:30. And then I got a whole afternoon to do other stuff. So I'm thinking about moving the show to the morning an hour earlier. And maybe there's a compromise. Maybe it's a half hour. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'd love to hear your feedback. So we're the day after the Florida shooting, which is smelling to high heaven even more. The further we get away from it, the more it stinks to high heaven. And we examine what went on or didn't go on. And I've been focusing on Alexa Miednik. If you're not familiar with Alexa Miednik, let me refresh your memory by playing this interview, which is now being scrubbed from YouTube. So this is a high school student, Alexa Miednik.
I actually was in the bathroom at the moment, and I came back to my classroom and I knocked on the door, and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said, everyone needs to evacuate right now. So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school. So I kind of joked to him about it and said, I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it. And he just gave me a huh. So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall. He had already fired at that time.
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was obviously definitely another shooter involved, but...
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
Because when shots were fired, I saw him after the fact. So, and the shots were coming from the other part of the building. So there definitely had to be 2 shooters involved, I believe.
That's the first I've heard of that. Did you see any other students who were wounded?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's unpack that. You had to see the visual of her. She was kind of smiling when the whole thing is going on. It's quite bizarre. If you listen to what she says, and you're not looking at her, it's okay. Well, here's an interesting series of factoids. And if you listen to the guy who's a sports dude from Houston, sports announcer, he says, well, he was with you after he did the shooting, and she says yes. But then she says that there was another shooter. And the whole thing stinks, to be honest with you. Why would he be at school? I mean, so the narrative is he comes flying into school and starts firing, right? You show me a school in this country without cameras. There are cameras all over schools. You show me a school without cameras, and I'll show you a school that is probably some country school where they've got 45 kids in the school. And even then, they might have cameras. Where's the video? Where's the video? Where is the video of the kids evacuating? You know, there's... now they're actually saying, well, he took advantage of the fact that there was a drill going. There was a drill, there was a fire drill, and there was a live shooting drill on the same damn day. And they'd had live shooting drills there for a while. What happens with a live shooting drill? They get to take photographs. They get to take photographs, and they get to have video footage that they can use and insert if there is an event that goes live, that goes hot, and they can mix and match, and they can bring in, like for instance, there's a video clip where they say, well, they're now taking the suspect away in a gurney. You can find the clip; it's out there. I don't have access to it. I saw it last night, and there's nobody in the gurney. There's nobody in the gurney. Now, either there was a drill and they were narrating live, or the drill had already taken place. And they were just inserting it. The other thing that's unusual is that apparently the weather in Florida right now is quite warm. And Alexa Meadnick is wearing a turtleneck sweater and a long sleeve shirt. And apparently it's in the mid-70s. Now, here's here's the interesting part. I spent some time on Alexa Meadnick's Twitter account. I've gotten into the Meadnick family. You see, this is what I do. This is why you people, you kind souls who give me a few dollars every month, this is what you're paying for. You're paying for me to get on the Meadnick's Twitter accounts and to do background checks on people like Benjamin Meadnick, her father, to try to understand what the family is about. Well, let me tell you what I found with Alexa Meadnick. She belonged to 2 acting agencies, 2 casting agencies. One was taken down, and another is still up, but it looks like it's almost a kind of a joke. I don't know how real it is. But clearly she was involved in some kind of acting gig. She comes from a family of, I think she has 3 brothers and a mother and a father. Her older brother is a baseball player at Florida Atlantic Union. So it's a college there. She runs track and field. And she's a serial tweeter. although she either stopped tweeting or all of her tweets from July forward have been deleted, which is odd. Because you go onto that girl's Twitter page. She lived on Twitter. And she likes spending time wearing as few clothes as possible. So to see her dressed up in a turtleneck with long sleeves is highly unusual, to say the least. And there are people that believe that that interview may have taken place at a different time. I don't know. She certainly looks older than a 18-year-old high school student. But it kind of matches up. She was a junior in, 2016. She was a junior, so she would have started her senior year in 2017. So that part matches up, I think, fairly closely. And Alexa Meetnick happens to be a Pisces. She's born on March 4th. You see, these are the things that I find out. Now, her father looks like he's involved in some kind of a real estate business, I guess. These are fitness freaks, these people, by the way. The family is. Ben likes to show off his six-pack abs. And he's involved with some kind, there's a ton of residences connected to his name. How much do you want to know about him? A few bankruptcies involved. We don't want to get too personal here. But a lot of minor traffic violations. I've been searching. I've been digging through the Meetnick family closet, so to speak, just trying to find some connections. They're from a place called North Platte, New York. Is that right? North Platte? That's where the family originates from. And they happen to be Jewish. There's no, inherent culpability here because they happen to be Jewish. They are. It's a Jewish family. I've seen pictures of them in Alexa in synagogue. Who, by the way, Alexa goes by Baby Meetnick on Twitter. But it's interesting that her tweets just stop in July. And you look at her and you go, man, this girl's a serial freaking tweeter. And then there's nothing from July until now? Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, I'm still in the process of digging through this young woman, Alexa Meetnick. Now, quite frankly, if you wanted to find them, you wanted to find out where they live, that's easy to do. I have their address. I got her dad's phone number. I got all this stuff. It's easy to find. That's the scary part of the internet. How long will it be before people descend upon the Meetnick residence? This is what I want to know. So the only person that acknowledged sort of the tweet, or not the tweet, but the interview, was the older brother, the one who's playing baseball. And he got on somebody's case on his Twitter account, and he deleted somebody's tweet. I haven't kept up with his Twitter account. But that's the only kind of evidence that somebody in the Meetnick family acknowledged Baby Meetnick's interview with the guy from the station in Houston. But how long will it take before a group of people descend upon... This is what's going to happen. Maybe not now. But at some point in one of these events, if there are questions that aren't answered, I guarantee you, if I could find that stuff that easily, anybody else could, and they could descend upon a place en masse and demand answers. Now, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not advocating it, but we're living in a time where people are getting antsy. All of a sudden we're talking about gun control and ARs, and we're talking about psychological evaluations and all the business that goes along with this. And what we're not talking about is we're not talking about the FBI, who, by the way, apparently knew that Nicholas Cruz, I'm going to get into his name in a minute. Nicholas Cruz was a suspect. Wow, gee. Well, why didn't you do something about it? Why didn't you pick him up off the streets? Well, that's going to happen. People will be begging. They'll be begging the FBI or some new agency that's created to remove people that resemble a threat. You think I'm kidding? It is coming. It is coming. The day is coming where if somebody is perceived to be, let's say there's 10 points, and they hit 7 of those points, you may be pulled in and say, well, what do you do with your life, and why are you saying these things? And, we're going to determine whether you're a threat or not. And if we don't think you're a threat, you get to leave. And if you are a threat, well, you get to stick around here for a while until we're able to figure out more about you and the impact that you might have in society. And this is coming. I'm telling you right now. You're going to have mandatory psychological evaluations. Those are coming. They're coming. Of course, the gun laws are getting very close to changing here. When you have Fox News, when you have, what's his name, Chaffetz, conservative Republican, going after guns and gun rights, I'm telling you, it's coming. And so we've got Easter coming up, and I'm going to talk about Easter and the symbolic representation of Easter as it relates to this event. I believe we're going to have 2 more events here in the not too distant future. And we're barely going to be able to catch our breath with this one, and there's going to be another one, because this one was big. This was a big event. Okay, Las Vegas was a big event, but this one is a bigger event. Why was this a bigger event? Because in Las Vegas, guess what? Those shots were going out and hitting, conservatives, right? Country Western people, Trump supporters. It was a country Western event. Let's be clear. I'm not trying to put a bunch of people in a country Western bucket, but I would assume that more of them would be on the conservative side. So at the end of the day, did a lot of progressives or liberals really care about that? Well, probably not. One less crazy white dude and a bunch of less enthusiastic Trump supporters. Let's go to the event in Texas. Texans. Do people really care if, on the left or the progressive side, that a bunch of hicks from Texas, Christian Texans, got snuffed out by another crazy son of a bitch? Less Texans, less Christians. But, we'll talk about guns. Oh, but now we're in Florida, and these are kids, and it's multicultural and all this stuff, and now all of a sudden we got some talking points, and it's the left that is doing the barking, certainly on this one. And this is what happens: left, right, left, right, left, right, and they excite both sides. So they make a strong case, weaving back and forth, the left side, the right side, the left side, the right side. Real, not real. What's real? What's not real? This is, this is the other part. I mean, what do you do with this Alexa Meadnick? What do you do with her? If somebody ever tracks her down and manages to get another story out of her, I'll guarantee you she said that it happened probably different than she said to the guy on the Houston News Report. I guarantee you. Oh, I was, okay. Now, of course, Nicholas Cruz was identified as being somebody who had connections to a patriot group in Florida. Apparently, there's some bozo in Florida who is a self-styled patriot, Jared or Jaron or... Why do we have these people? Why do we have these people? It's like, walks around with a sign and a gun. He's a, you have to ask yourself, is this guy actually really a patriot? Is he really somebody that believes in these things? Because if he is, and he does, then, he's not putting a pretty good face forward, right? He's just not. It's a bad look. First of all, he's fat, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to be weightist, but he's fat, and he's just he looks like he's got a slovenly look. He's got a slovenly look. I don't know. Why do all these patriot guys look like they just sit around and do nothing but drink soda and eat chips and roll their fat asses out to a target range every now and then? If the shit ever hit the fan, these fat asses would not last. I'm sorry. I remember that guy Mark from Michigan, who was a big patriot person back in the 90s, and he must have weighed about 300 pounds. You got to be kidding me. Look, if these people are really, really patriots and they're serious about what they do, they're not letting anybody know. Trust me. They're not letting anybody know. They're keeping their powder dry, and they're keeping their nose clean. They're not walking around on the streets of Florida with a sign and a gun telling people that, this is the death of Whitey. It's not happening. Anyway, they connected this guy, Nicholas Cruz, up with him. Courtesy of our friends at the Southern Poverty Law Center. Bringing you classification, typology, smear and hate campaigns 24/7. I got into it with one of their drones one day when I was living in Berkeley. They're out there pitching for money to stop bullying. Gotta stop the bullying. And this guy, they're wearing these red vests. They're like the Red Cross. We're the Red Cross for bullying. This is what your money will buy. And sitting there and talking with very concerned women. Yes, I'm concerned about bullying. Yes. They said, well, all you got to do is teach these kids martial arts. You teach these kids martial arts, and they can defend themselves against bullies. Wouldn't that be an empowering thing? And they both looked at me with contempt. Disgust. Ugh. 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 Yes. What were you saying? How much do I need to give you? Anyway, they linked him up. They linked this Nicholas Cruz kid up with this guy. And they saw him with a MAGA hat. I mean, the whole thing is just pure propaganda. And of course, 24 hours later, the police are saying there's no connection between Nicholas Cruz and any white supremacist group. None. But in the aftermath of this event, boy, it was everywhere. Everywhere. I have liberal friends on my Facebook page gloating. Look at the effect. Gloating. Just waiting for something like this. See what's happening? Sorry, it's not the case. There's no ties there. But it inflamed them. And if somebody's not paying attention, they're just going to keep on walking with this idea that this kid was connected in with some, radical white national identity terror group. Served its purpose. In the aftermath of the trauma, you emblazon the image. You burn the image into the brain so it sticks in the emotional center of the brain. And the only way you can rip it off is if you go through another emotional event and it somehow is removed. That's how you get through it. That's how you remove these programs. You have to associate the emotional state and then remove the program. That's what happens. You don't have to recreate it completely, you have to, but you have to associate the state and remove the program. It's not a bad technique, to be honest with you. If you're going through shit in your life, you're examining your life, that's the time you can remove the programs. That's the time. All kinds of programs. Ones you inherited from your parents, one you inherited from your culture, your religion, from the media. You're going through shit and you're doing self-examination, you can peel those suckers right off. That's what happens. So now we know that he was not a member of a militia. He was not a member of a hate group, although some people believe that. We do know that some kid that looked like him was taken away with ultra kind of red hair. May or may not look like the kid that we have a few pictures of. We know for a fact that this is somebody, if he does have this profile, if it indeed is the profile that we're being told, is that he was adopted. He was adopted and both adoptive parents died. We have no idea about the pre-adoption life, if indeed that is true. No idea. And we do know that the pre-adoptive cases can often be quite abusive. Quite abusive. So when a child is adopted, there's a very good chance that the longer they stay in the adoption phase or cycle, that there's a higher degree of damage and trauma. Which is why I guess when you want to have a young child that you want to adopt, because you're not picking up damaged goods per se. That's not always the case, but it does happen. It does happen. So we don't know what this kid's pre-adoptive life was like, but we do know that he said that he was hearing voices. He was hearing voices telling him what to do. Apparently that's out there now. So what we have here is, and he was like hanging out at a Subway. Isn't that what happened? He was hanging out at the Subway trying to get a drink. I mean, doesn't that remind you of like Lee Harvey Oswald in a lot of ways? Like how he was picked up. Like he's just sitting there having a drinking. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Was he that cold-blooded? I mean that's kind of the picture they want to paint, right? He was that cold-blooded that he could take all those lives and just sashay on over to Subway and have himself a nice big fat soda drink because he doesn't give a shit. Or maybe he didn't do anything. Maybe that's why he went to Subway. Maybe that's why. In my estimation, let's say he went out and he did that and he did all that killing. Wouldn't there be like some kind of level of self-preservation? Like, shit, man, I just wasted all these people. And I got to get the hell out of here. I got to split, man, because I've got a life. It may be a shit life, but it'll be an even shittier life if I get caught. So maybe I should avoid public places. Maybe I should get out of town. I did my dirty deed. I got it all done. I listened to the voices in my head. No, I'm going to go to Subway. I'll go to Subway. Yeah. Because I'm one cool motherfucker. I'll just go to Subway. It doesn't really happen like that. But then, of course, I don't have voices in my head telling me to go shoot people. Thank God. That's some pretty crazy thoughts in my life. But I've never heard, Robert, go buy a gun. Robert, go buy a gun and go to the H-E-B because they sold you bad cheese last week. Yes, I will go get the gun. I will go get the gun, and I will make my own Swiss cheese with the bullets. Oh, thank you. Thank you, voice in my head. No. So, maybe the voice in the head told me to go to Subway. Nicholas, you're thirsty. It's been a hard day. You've killed a lot of people. Why don't you reward yourself? Go on over to Subway. Get a big fat soda drink. In fact, make it a Mountain Dew. Okay. Florida. Florida's shady. Florida is shady. Pulse nightclub. Now this. We had the hanging chads in the election in 2000. Florida. What a lovely place. I actually like Florida. But a lot of stuff happens there apparently. So there's some other interesting little tidbits about this that are making their way through the alternative media. Isaac Weishaupt, who I actually had on my show, is a really, really bright guy, talked about the song Valentine's Day by David Bowie. And how Valentine's Day, the song, actually contains the lyrics of the shooter, or what happened on Valentine's Day. Should I read the lyrics? Let's do that. Let's do that. Let me punch it up here. Yeah, I was listening to this guy on YouTube last night. He doesn't have a ton of views, like on his videos. Lots of comments though. He didn't know. He didn't know what Nuremberg was. I'm like, really? About that? Okay. I mean, look, you don't have to know, but if you're going to have a podcast, you're going to talk about this shit, trust me, you need to know what Nuremberg was, okay? Valentine's Day, David Bowie. Valentine told me who's to go. Feelings he treasured most of all. The teachers and the football stars. It's in his tiny face. It's in his scrawny hands. Valentine sold his soul. He's got something to say. It's Valentine's Day. The rhythm of the crowd. Benny and Judy down. Funny, Benny is Baby Meatnick's father, Ben Meatnick. Valentine sees it all. He's got something to say. It's Valentine's Day. Valentine told me how he feels if all the world were under his heels. We're stumbling through the mall. It's in his tiny face. It's in his scrawny hands. Valentine knows it all. He's got something to say. It's Valentine's Day. Okay. So Isaac said, and Bowie recorded this at a studio called The Magic Shop. So Isaac's premise, and it's an interesting one, is that there are these, they're more than memes. They're actually like spiritual, psychic, let's put it that way, psychic missiles that are unleashed into the collective unconscious. Almost as if they're demons with wings, waiting to attach themselves to somebody in some point in time in the future. In essence, it's the casting of a spell. And that spell becomes manifest in the darkness of an individual as the spell rests upon the individual, almost like a virus that finds an opening. And then as a result of that, this spell or this magic that is created and wends its way towards the recipient the unfortunate recipient, becomes manifest. And I think that probably does occur from time to time. Sometimes things are just sinks. There's a story of James Joyce, who wrote a short story about a ship that sank in the Atlantic, and shortly after the story was published, a ship sank in the Atlantic under almost the exact same circumstances that Joyce wrote about in the short story. I don't believe that Joyce was creating a curse to sink a ship. And I don't believe that the ship was sunk based on trying to connect the Joycean story with some other event or this event and, wrapping people's heads around some sort of synchromistic kind of realization. I think sometimes people tap into the zeitgeist and they tap into the collective unconscious and they create art or something comes out of it, and the next thing you know, boom, there's an event. Unless, of course, it's The Simpsons. Matt Groening and company are either time travelers or they've got a copy of the bigger script. Like, there's a script for the show, and then there's a script for reality. And I think they may have both. Anyway, I don't think it's an interesting sync, trust me. But did it become this kind of, demonic force that possessed Nicholas Cruz to go ahead and live out the murderous kind of intent of David Bowie's song? I don't believe so. Because I believe that there's a different intent involved here. Now, maybe the two are not mutually exclusive. I don't know. Maybe the intent, which is to take away guns and to put America under another form of tyranny, to sell a bunch of scanners, body scanners, to make sure that everybody gets psychologically evaluated, to make sure that now we have the civilian version of the Patriot Act, which is the preemptive strike, taking people out of situations before they cause harm. I mean, maybe all these things are lined up in a supernatural way so that they can take place, and a little Lee Harvey Oswald, like Nicholas Cruz might have been, takes place. It's a very complex formula, but maybe that's the way it happens. Maybe. Or maybe Nicholas Cruz just didn't have anything to do with it at all, and this is just another manufactured event, and who knows? Shooters, non-shooters, shooting team, we don't know. I mean, we've got some things here that are interesting, some things that are beguiling. What do you do with that Alexa Meadnick interview? What do you do with that? How do you put that into context? This stuff has been going on for a while. I remember, what was it, Michael Cho or whatever his name was, the guy who was the shooter at Virginia Tech. People talked about multiple shooters then. This is nothing new. People talked about it in Columbine, that it wasn't just, Klebold and Harris. And then there are people who said nothing happened at Columbine. And there are people who say that Klebold and Harris are the creators of South Park. Stone and Parker. Yeah, it's interesting. That was their school. You never know. You never know. And I think it's going to get harder and harder to get answers. But what we do know is that this shit is going to continue to happen until they take the guns away. I'm telling you right now. Until they take the guns away, or until there is a revolution, because people aren't going to give up their guns. Until that happens, this shit's going to happen. Again and again and again. So you better get used to it. And the only time it's going to stop is when the guns are taken away, in their mind. Just like terrorism. The only time the war on terror is over is when they say it's over. What about the name Nicholas Cruz? I thought about this last night. Now, of course, instead of just writing, I've been trying to collect facts on this stuff and trying to get into this, into the Meadniks world. I don't know if it's a good strategy, but I don't want to just come up with something, off the cuff. But Nick means the devil. It means the devil, right? That's Nick. Oh, Nick. Nick means the devil. And Cruz is the cross. It's the cross. It's the devil's cross, or the double cross. This is what this event is, the Devil's Cross. This is Valentine's. What is it, Capernalia? It's the Roman orgy where people put on the wolf masks and then had sex with each other. They didn't know who they were by wearing the wolf masks, and they got turned into Valentine's Day. Anyway, it's the Devil's Cross. Nick Cruz, the Devil's Cross. That's really interesting is that there's a doppelganger here, and his name is Nicky Cruz. And Nicky Cruz was the author of a book called The Cross and the Switchblade. And what does a switchblade do? It nicks you. It cuts you. And The Cross and the Switchblade became a very powerful movie in terms of evangelism back in the 70s. So if you wanted to convert people who were on the edge, you'd show them that movie. And they go, wow, that's me, man. I'm so close to the edge. I should probably get on the cross side and drop the switchblade part. But it's interesting, right? There's this doppelganger, Nicholas Cruz, Nicky Cruz. Nick means to cut, and Cruz, of course, is the cross. Nick is the devil, and there's the cross, and it's the double cross. And the switchblade has two sides to it. It's not just a one-sided blade. That's the nature of the switchblade, right? It's got two sides. It's not like a steak knife. So is there a double cross here involved? Perhaps. Maybe the double cross is on the people. And this is what the devil does. It double crosses all the time. What's interesting about the event is that Valentine's Day is now 47 days away from Easter/April Fools. How about that? 47 days. Now, what is the significance of the number 47? Well, that's a really, really, really good question. Did you know that there's a 47 society? Did you know that? Very interesting stuff. So here we go. These are frequently asked questions about 47. In short, 47 appears to be the quintessential random number of the universe. In other words, when a number appears randomly, more often than not, that number is 47. In other words, if you ask people to pick a number at random, more often than not, so that number would be 47. Of course, if 47 shows up more than any other number, then it truly isn't random, but using the word random makes the whole phenomenon easy to describe. What is a 47 sighting? Anytime you notice number 47 in your life or in the world or elsewhere, there are a variety of interpretations as to what constitutes a 47 sighting. Whatever your definition, we encourage you to share your 47 sightings with the 47 Society mailing list. In the 1960s, Pomona College's professor Donald Bentley completed a mathematical proof that stated that all numbers were equal, therefore all numbers were equal to 47. Since then, students at Pomona have been quietly indoctrinated in the ways of 47. Some believe, some doubt, but it is listed in the student handbook right after Glee Club. At this date, we've been able to obtain a copy of Professor Bentley's proof. However, 1968 Pomona alumnus Wayne Phillips corroborates its existence. So I'm going to share with you some of these 47 attributes. Okay? Or connections. So there's a movie called The Sync Movie, and it began with the number 47, and it's connected to this hip-hop guy, young guy named Jamal Dewar, also known as Capital Steez, who's now dead. And he started to see all these connections with the number 47. So this is from the Sync Movie. From a spiritual perspective, number 47 is a combination of energies and attributes of number 4 and number 7. The vibrations of the number 4 include those of productivity and application, inner wisdom, practical thinking, honesty and integrity, endurance and determination, conscientiousness and discipline. Number 4 also relates to our passion and drive in life. Number 7 brings the qualities of spiritual awakening and enlightenment, intuition, inner knowing, psychic abilities and mysticism, independence and individualism, persistence, purpose, and manifesting good fortune. On TV's Lost, 47 people survived the plane crash. In the 40-year-old version, Steve Carell keeps a collection of 47 G.I. Joes. Watch Monsters, Inc. closely, and you'll spot an accident-free for 47 days sign on the Scare Factory floor. The 2009 blockbuster reboot of Star Trek alludes to 47 Klingon vessels being deployed. There was even a much-viewed YouTube spoof of Jim Carrey's the number 23, substituting, you guessed it, the number 47. So here we go. The Bible credits Jesus with 47 miracles. The Declaration of Independence has 47 sentences. There are 47 strings on a concert harp. The tropics of Cancer and Capricorn are located 47 degrees apart. 1947 is when the UFO crashed at Roswell, and 4 plus 7 is 11, a master number and part of the Awakening Code. Also, Jose Arguelles' kin is 11, and he brought forth the Law of Time, also known as the World 13 calendar. So then he goes on to launch into this whole connection with the Law of Time. It's pretty interesting. It's called Sync Stories, number 47, Synchronicity and the Law of Time Sync Stories. And it's about this guy, Capital Steez. Very interesting stuff. So we're 47 days away from Easter, from Valentine's Day. Here's another website, The Mystery of 47, the Pomonian, the Pomoniana. Let's see, is there anything in here that I have not read? Let's see, The Absent-Minded Professor, the Disney comedy, features a basketball game filmed at Pomona's old Renwick Gym. The final score, 47-46. That's interesting, huh? In the freshman class that entered Pomona in the year 2000, there were 47 valedictorians. Okay. At the time of Pomona's first graduating class in 1894, there were 47 students enrolled. Pomona College is located at exit 47 of the San Bernardino Freeway, and there are 47 pipes in the top row of the Lyman Hall organ. That's in Pomona College. Interesting. I wonder if Steve has jumped in on the 47 bit here. I'd love to hear what he has to say about it. 47 days between St. Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday and April Fool's and Easter. Does that mean that something significant might happen on Easter? Well, the cat's out of the bag. I mean, if it could go... look, if a David Bowie song could somehow predict, foretell, and seep into the head of Nikki Cruz, then maybe by us actually breaking the spell and me saying, oh, watch out for Easter and April Fool's Day, because something intense can happen. But something intense might happen, to be honest with you. I mean, we got a Mars-Saturn conjunction on April Fool's Day. Easter Sunday, 8 degrees, Mars-Saturn. That's a big conjunction. That's big. We're going to have that Mars-Pluto conjunction coming up. I'm telling you, man, spring of 2018. And 2018 it's a 20 year. It's the aeon. It's the end of one year and the end of one epoch in one era, the beginning of another. Who knows where it's going to go? Who knows where this thing is going to go? We're in deconstruction phase. You know, I was looking at pictures from the 1970s celebrities, the Jackson 5 on the beach at Malibu, skaters at Venice Beach, stuff like that. And you could just tell that there was a different feeling in the air. The air itself was different. I mean, think about that. We live in a time with heavy air. The air that we breathe is heavier than at other times in history. because of what's being sprayed in our skies on a daily basis. And whether or not it's to combat global warming or global cooling, or to deal with the intense rise of methane, methyl sulfide, doesn't really matter. We're breathing heavier air. And when we breathe heavier air, the pneuma, the spirit in the air, is compromised. And so we're not being fed spiritually at any single point of entry in our body, whether it's the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, even the soil beneath our feet. Man, that's even corrupt. But it's the air. We lived in a time where the air was different. The air is heavy now. And there is a pall of heaviness that's descended upon our world. There is a spirit of heaviness that we're living with. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is having a hard time or a heavy time, but people that are aware are. People that are sensitive are. Now, I know a guy, he's retired, he plays golf every day. He's having the time of his life. He doesn't give a shit. He's enjoying himself. Hey, maybe there's something to be said for that. And why did I have to wake up? Why couldn't I just remain blissfully unaware? You know, life would be a lot easier. It's like Joe Pesci when he wants to go back into the Matrix. I want to be somebody famous, like a movie star. I'm like, he eats a steak. I know the steak isn't real, but I love it. You ever ask yourself why you woke up? Congratulations. Congratulations, you woke up. Well, you got more to do. You got more to do. You got miles to go. Boy, we are in it now. We're in the maelstrom. How can you feel real? I mean, if you're like somebody who's like a MAGA head, and you're into the patriotic thing, then there's something to be said in some ways for it. Okay, we got to have a unifying principle somehow, some way, somewhere. That's just the way it is. You can't get anything done unless you have a unifying principle. And that's not going to happen, in my estimation, anytime soon until this thing gets deconstructed. And then whatever the unifying principle is on the other side of that, well, good luck. Hopefully it's one that's building towards a brighter and better and more sane and organic and kind of individual-centric version of the future where all the individuals are kind of aligned in the same direction. And we've gone through the bullshit, we've gone through the fire, and the fire has extinguished itself. We're like, okay, well, where do we want to go from here? I mean, that's kind of like one version of it. The other version is like, you guys lost, and now you're in our fucking world, okay? So you better get hip to it, and here's a boot in your neck just in case you're not going to be so compliant. That's another version of an organizing principle. Is there a mixture between the two? No, there's not. I don't believe so. I don't believe so. And we're not going back. We're not going to make this thing America circa 1941. It's just not happening. It's not happening. Too much has changed. It's not. Are there values? Are there morals? Are there pieces that were connected to that time that we could use? Absolutely. 100%. There's a lot of stuff we've left behind that we need to reclaim. That part I'm clear on. But there's a group of people that are very clear in the fact that reclaiming those things returns us to some form of tyranny. And tyranny that is directed, guided, and run ultimately by a certain group. And they're not going to do it. They're not going to allow it. And they're going to fight to the death so that it doesn't occur. Even though some of those things might be actually quite good for the general populace to embrace. Anyway, this is where it's headed. But I looked at those pictures. And we go back and we look at our times in our lives. And every generation does this. Oh my God, those were different times. Those are better times. And I know what the 70s and to some extent even the 80s felt like in my body and in the air, and they were different. They were different. There was a sense that things were evolving. They were evolving. There was kind of an adventure in the air. If you look at in popular music, all these interesting styles of popular music were starting to emerge. rock wasn't just rock anymore. It was soft rock. It was southern rock. It was hard rock. It was heavy metal. It was jazz rock. It was rock and soul, and the Hall and Oates, and it was folk rock and the LA scene. And I don't give a shit whether or not there's the Laurel Canyon or MI6 or any of these agencies behind the creation of culture, and they generally were, right? I mean, Tavistock was involved in the creation of culture, the CIA, the creation of culture. This is what's happened. But I don't care, because things were interesting. They were evolving. Like, where's it going to go? Where's it going to go? What's happening? Ooh, there's this, there's this, there's this. Oh, there's this band, Roxy Music. Oh, they got this crazy guy, Brian Eno, and he's playing synthesizer. And he's not playing synthesizer the way Keith Emerson ever played synthesizer, or Rick Wakeman. He's making weird noises and sounds out of it. And then you have punk rock, 1976. Boy, exploding, another version of rock. And you have post-punk, and you have ska, and ska punk. I mean, it was great. There was a sense things were evolving. Technology slowly got better and better and better. And you went from these massive computers to computers you could use at home. And then eventually you get to the 14-bit sampler right around 86, 87, and all those crazy drum machines that didn't really work out for the rock bands. But these kids from Chicago and Detroit found them and turned them into, instruments from the future. I mean, these were interesting times. And there was a sense that there was a road ahead. And there was a road and a journey ahead. I remember being in the Bay Area and being connected with Mondo 2000 and the interface between psychedelics and cybernetics and computing. And man, it was like so cool. It was like, wow, this is a whole new frontier. And in fact, that was one of the first versions of Mondo 2000, New Frontiers. Do we feel that way now? Do we have a sense that there is an open road ahead of us? And if we do have a sense of that open road, does it look more like Mad Max? Is that the open road we're staring down? Dystopian society? Fractured, fragmented, deconstructed? Is that what we're looking at? Or is it going to be more like the H.G. Wells version of the open road? And the time machine, and the Morlocks, and that whole reality? Or is it going to be sterile? Or is it going to be an Orwellian version where love is essentially stamped out of everything? And that's what's happening now. Love is being stamped out of everything. The Me Too movement is just crushing the potential for love. Now, that's not to say that, again, we can't treat women, especially young women, in a way that is going to be absolutely and utterly unacceptable. No, nobody's supporting that. But the mechanism that's been activated as a result of this is absolutely throttling and killing intimacy. There are men on the job now who won't even train women. They won't train them. They don't want to be, this is true, this is coming out of the workforce. There are men who don't want to be alone with women. They don't want to train them one-on-one because it could cost them their jobs. Now, how is that permeating their personal relationships? I'm lucky in a lot of ways. I'm really fortunate because I have a group of people that connect with me through my website, my work, and I'm fortunate. They're a great group of people. Fantastic. Most of you I haven't met, but a number of you send me emails, and it's a great honor and pleasure to have this role in this lifetime for however long I have it. There's no guarantees about anything, but I'll do it until I don't do it, because that's my mission and this is what I'm doing. So I don't necessarily have to go through the same kinds of challenges that somebody in the workplace has to deal with when they're training somebody, and this whole kind of culture that's permeated things. It's very difficult, and I can't imagine what it would be like. And even when I talk on this show, and I try to freewheel and free associate as much as possible, and get to something that's salient and has some meat on the bones. But I have to work and process through things so that I get to a point where my expression is not going to hopefully offend someone, but it does. And I've offended people, and people have sent me emails and they've told me I offended them or I offended women, and we've talked about it, and I've gone through some of this stuff. But it's a process, and it's a process that's ongoing and should be ongoing for each of us. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, but I'm out here and I'm doing it, and I better damn well work through some of the things inside of me before I get up here and open my mouth. Again, I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. I'm an unfinished product. My question would be, is this a process that is ongoing in society and with other people? Are people that are going through sort of this Me Too thing, are they really willing to turn over the stones and really turn it over? So you get to the bottom and then you come to the top again. Because that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen with anything. If something starts off and it becomes expository and it just stays there, if it just stays there at this expository mode, something is achieved on some level. Well, lots achieved, but something takes place at a level that can be theoretically therapeutic or helpful. But this is the Plutonian effect. You have to go all the way through it, you see. You have to go all the way through it. Now, if there's the intention would be, yeah, we want to get through this stuff so that when we're through it, we can relate again. And we can relate again that whatever shame or virtue that has been discarded or reclaimed or whatever now becomes part of the equation of creating a new bond. But if that doesn't take place, then what we have is something that's inert. We have a program that's been opened and it hasn't been closed. It hasn't been closed. In order to close it, you have to have resolution and closure. And to have resolution and closure isn't necessarily stopping at the point of accusation and then some form of sentencing. There's another part after that. There's the aftermath, and the aftermath is the hardest part in all of our lives. Excuse me. In all of our lives, the aftermath is the hardest part. Because in the aftermath, you have to go through a certain level of forgiveness. That's the most difficult part. It's a difficult part. Some level of forgiveness. Self-forgiveness for whatever situation you put yourself in. We all do this. We all put ourselves in situations where shit happens. And we probably shouldn't have been in those situations in the first place. So what do we have to do? We have to forgive ourselves for putting ourselves in that situation. That's really a difficult piece. And then perhaps we can forgive the other person as part of that. And that's without any kind of agreement on the other person's part to forgive. That's wholly independent of that. That's the toughest part. That's the hardest part. And that's really what's not talked about here with the whole Me Too thing. I'm sorry, I went off on the Me Too. But it's getting to the other side. It's getting to the other side so that we can resume some kind of healthier level of relating and bonding. And unless that's taken into consideration, really all it is an open-ended program that never closes. Yet another. And how many more do we need in our society? These open-ended programs that never close. The Hillary Clinton program, the pedophilia program, the QAnon program, the #MeToo program, the shooting at Parkland School, Florida program. All these programs, open, running. No closure. People are dying for closure. People are dying for consummation. And at some point, the people are going to get sick and tired of it. And they're going to take the matters in their own hands. I'm telling you right now. And I'm not advocating it. Because when that happens, everything changes. And it changes forever. And this may be part of the program. It may be part of the program. To find closure on all these things. All these programs are just continually opened. Well, I got to find some closure for this show, don't I? Probably. So we have another weekend coming up, and a lot to meditate on and think about. And I think we just have to bring it all home. You know, we got to bring it all home, and what's going to be meaningful, have merit in your life. How are you going to feed yourself? How are you going to breathe air that isn't heavy? You're going to get air filters inside your house. You're going to have to spiritually elevate yourself above the condition of the air. You're going to feed yourself. You're going to feed yourself good food. You got to be around good people. These are the things that are going to carry us through these times. It's deep self-nurturing, deep self-care, deep self-love. And some of us are still struggling with a lot of that. So maybe this is a time where you can begin to bring some of that in. We got a Pisces moon, right? Pisces moon this weekend. Pisces going into Aries. Starting off, I think, next week, Monday, with an Aries moon. Look out. Buckle up. As far as Florida goes, I don't know. We're going to probably have something else pretty quickly on the heels of this. 47 days out, we've got Easter and April Fool's Day. 47 days out. So either one or two events coming, because this is the cycle. You know, people are really opened up now with this high school and Valentine's Day and all the triggering, literally and figuratively, that has gone on. You want to take advantage of something like that. If you're on that side of things, you want to hammer home new gun laws. You want to make sure that every school in America has a metal detector and a TSA-style device. If you want to begin to look at mandatory psychological evaluations, this is your time. This is your time. This is where you want to push the ball across the goal line. So everybody out there listening, just be aware of that. Just be aware of it. You know, when these events happen, you know what I do? I stay away from media. I'll go on the internet. I'll read some alternative sources. I stay away from the media. I just do. I wait, and then I re-enter. Because I know what they're saying. I only have to watch maybe about 35 or 40 minutes of it. I know what they're saying. I can cruise my Twitter feed, and I have a bunch of people I follow. They're not all the same stripe. I know what's being said. And that's a level of self-care. It's a level of self-care. It may be blinders, but it works. It allows me to do other things. All right. Hear ye, hear ye. This meeting of the Friday FARcasters Club is now adjourned. We'll be back on Sunday night at 8 p.m. for the live stream over on YouTube. That's going to happen. Maybe we'll get into the chart. The chart of the Florida event, which I have. I have the chart. I don't have Nicholas Cruz's. I can't find him. I can't find Nicholas Cruz on any search. And what's interesting, I can't even find Alexa Meetnick. I can find her brothers, maybe because the brothers are older. I've done the search. I can't really find her. I mean, through some of the records. But we'll look at the shooting for on Sunday night. Maybe we'll look at the Easter chart. We'll do that. We'll connect the two. 47 days out from Ash Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Well, you know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to the Friday FARcast. I'll see you who want to be there on Sunday.